Good evening, everybody, from this spectacular view of the Earth. This is Lucifer Apollo again. I want to create a video custom made for my Antinatalist group. I haven't never really made one. That kind of explains my point of view of Antinatalism a little bit. Although this is the first video, so it will expand into other videos in philosophy. I will also create an entry for my blog, which I will put at the bottom of the description if you want to read the script for this video and read other blog entries. The title for this video is Antinatalism, Pessimism, and Higher Consciousness, just like my Antinatalist group. I think the greatest love one can show to another human being is to not bring him into a world such as this, a place that its history is full of pain, war, destruction, injustice, and death. No life that thou a king, or thou the poor, or of the powerful, or of the weak, or any individual has had a good ending in history, not even those of saints, as every living being gets a terrible end of decaying and death. Because all ends in death, the act of producing a new human being on this planet is no different than torture and murder in reality. Think about it. From the moment you are born, you are subject to hunger, pain, disease, all kinds of discomforts. Most people are born in not favorable economic conditions, which means you have to spend your entire life working to sustain a life and a body that, no matter what, is slow and aging, breaking down and dying. Humanity is not living but dying. You cannot build a life in a situation, in an existence that is so short, temporary and fragile. Do you ever think how horrible it must be as you are reaching your 60s or 70 years old of age and your body is approaching its end, as your muscles, eyes, hair, skin are breaking? Think about it. Whatever a few years that remain, you are trapped in a body that is slowly destroying itself. But you know there is no cure or hope or a remedy to this situation. And yet, we are all going to be on that position sooner or later in time. Life in its essence is in vain. For no matter what you do and achieve, it cannot relieve you from this finite conclusion. Why introduce a life which is not asking to come here, to see its demise at the end? Why? The creation of a body is the making of a need which slaves you to its needs. From hunger to disease to the discomforts of cold, heat, the need to sleep, the necessity of shelter, even the animals on this planet are hostile to us and themselves. Have you ever been outside at night, in the park? How intensive the mosquitoes are? Think also of the viruses that cause pandemics, or the unimaginable number of bacteria that can provoke disease. The point I'm making is that the world and its creation are always seeking to harm and kill. The nature of this realm is evil. All these things and needs for protection at the same time enslave you to the economical system currently running, making you a slave to the government, economy, and society, all to satisfy the necessities that now you carry with a body. Why create a need of a new human being in a world overpopulated that frankly does not need it? That is foolish. Imagine being born in the poorest countries where even the most basic necessities are so difficult to access and require tremendous stresses in the human being. Why feed new life for government to tax, enslave with their laws, and use in many cases as bodies for their militaries and machinery of war? The economy around the world is also a problem. Many jobs do not pay enough to sustain proper housing, utilities, and as the population keeps growing without government restricting the unending growth, housing, food, and material needs in general will get more expensive. As with billions more added to the world, the necessity for resources increases, not only making things more rare and expensive, but we are also damaging, ironically, the only planet that can currently sustain life. Think how unstable this planet can be. We are constantly harassed by natural disasters such as earthquakes that have often devastated millions of people, left them without homes and with death all around them. Tsunamis, floods, extreme dryness that sometimes can cause starvation as crops do not have the conditions to grow. Earth is a host to host to all its living beings. Even outer space can be deadly. Just think about the countless creatures that died after the asteroid impact 65 million years ago. Earth and the universe in its true nature is hostile to life, even though it is precise enough to cause it and sustain it. That is why it takes such horrible toll and effort to keep life. This reality is deficient, defective, and I may say a malignant conspiracy of some type at cosmic level. It is ironic that as humanity grows in numbers without assessing the capacity of the earth resources to support everyone, the greater the risk they place on their offspring possibilities of future survival. So much for them to want life and to want to bring it here. And yet they do not observe that the more they reproduce, the harder it is for everyone to survive, and the greater the damage they do to Earth and its ecosystems. As the numbers keep growing, water, food, shelter will be harder to access. The approaching world of the next 50 years will be stressful and very brutal for those that may be born in it. And yet we did this to ourselves. All these lonely resources of Earth, in addition to poor, incompetent, corrupt, and yet primitive governmental structures around the planet who cannot and will not act in the interests of humanity and cannot appropriately govern themselves as they lack the intelligence, the capacity to actualize and foresee new visions of reality. We can see the reality of governance of the planet as we observe the conditions of civilization from wars, starvation, poverty, and severe injustice in everything and more. Why subject new human beings to these conditions? Why bring more sentience to a world which does not necessitate more bodies? A humanity that cannot stop and assess its reality before reproducing without control is not intelligent, and it can only lead to chaos and death in the long term. We can observe this clearly in how it manages its host planet at this moment. Does humanity as a whole truly has a purpose for these ever-growing numbers? They never ask themselves this question, of course, just as animals breed without questioning the reason, as they do what nature calls for. For humanity does too. That is because mankind is at base level consciousness, which only allows for the base operation of sexual reproduction and survival modes, and not beyond that. So how can they question questions which are above their perception current capability? Do they even consider life from the beginning to end? As they have thousands of years of history, billions of human beings' lives to draw conclusions of the likely outcome and life of these new beings? Of course not. An intelligent humanity will be sort of an antinatalist naturally, and will likely be very careful with each offspring it is to bring into the world. focusing itself in quality and not quantity. Each human unit will have a purpose and a need within the collective. And humanity will think as a single organism, acting for its universal benefit. A more intelligent humanity will likely refuse to reproduce, as it could evaluate clearly the tremendous deficiencies of existence and either go extinct or attempt an unnatural metaphysical adventure to jump out of this reality to a higher dimensional plane, I imagine. We are too far from the first step of humanity, let alone from the second one I'm describing. The truth is that the natalists are the most programmable animal and the easiest to control by the state, religion, the commercial and economical system. Think about it. You as an antinatalist can observe the difficult conditions of this world and the bodies we are born and determine by reason and common sense that the introduction of a new life here is not right or optimal. And yet the masses do it with and even are proud of it, as if they've done something amazing. The truth is that such thing is done even by the humblest of the terrestrial creatures. Religion programs you to be fruitful and make more slaves so new believers can be indoctrinated with their beliefs, and those at the top can feed their gods and organization. Just as government society does all for its own exploitative will. You have asked in the group sometimes, why higher consciousness? Why does that have to do with antinatalism? Well, I will tell you now. Because without higher consciousness, you cannot elevate your thought and purpose beyond the mundane and general activity of mankind. It is ironic that for you to be able to reach true higher consciousness, the first step is not to reproduce. By not doing so, you are opening the potential of reaching a higher state of being, because your time and resources are not utilized to care and sustain your offspring, but for the endeavors of your own being evolution. The problem with most humanity is that from a young age they begin their activities of household, marriage, and procreation. This, of course, will take away your focus that is necessary for your being to transcend the normal activities of life. This means that their state of consciousness will remain in the animal condition, bound by the nature matrix, and they will not observe beyond the immediate things of life. The veil of illusion will remain. This means that they will accept all conditions and programs of life, from religion to social constructs. Antinatalism is an important step to create a better world and reduce global suffering, especially in the poorest nations on earth. If governments and societies had a basic understanding of this, they will undertake the work to spread antinatalism. I think antinatalism requires something much more metaphysical than simply not procreating, in order to sustain this philosophy with a more elevated meaning. This is the purpose of this group, the work to bring a transcendental antinatalism beyond the meaning of this temporary life. The antinatalist, I believe, has a higher potential for this spiritual, metaphysical work, as the act of denying nature once requires for this being to be stronger and smarter than the common men and women of this humble planet. Therefore, I am attempting to develop, shape this new way through this group. So this is not a regular antinatalist group. I imagine you have figured out that by now. Antinatalism, I believe, is a path of higher ethics, spiritual, philosophical attainment, and it is the first step of liberation from the chains of death that this universe has conjured for its creatures. I believe antinatalism is the way of true love for self and all living things. As you spare them from the harms that this reality can cause, it is in itself an act of enlightenment and higher consciousness. So this is all I had to say for this evening. Good night.